Welcome and thank you for standing by. Currently, all participants are in listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn the call over to your presenter for today, Caleb Hopler.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning to those of you that's on the West Coast tuning in today. Welcome to today's webinar, Discovering the American Community Survey, or the ACS, one-year supplemental estimates. My name is Caleb Hopler, and I work in the American Community Survey Office here at the U.S. Census Bureau. And I look forward to share information with you about the ACS one-year supplemental estimates and the data that they provide. Couple administrative things first before we jump in here. So if you do have any questions, please submit them through the Q&A feature of WebEx. I have colleagues on standby right now that will try to answer all of your questions during the webinar. The chat feature, FYI, is only one way, and that's for my team to send notes and resources for you all. So please only send your questions through the Q&A feature. And just to let you know that the PDF version of the slides is available at the link shown on this slide. And so that link is actually where likely where you went originally to register for attending today's webinar. And so the slides were added today. You can follow along, and I have a lot of links that are in these slides. And when you download, that will be the best way to be able to access those links at a later time and refer back to them. And then also just to let you know that today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available online at this link later after the webinar. So let's go over today's agenda. For the first part of today's webinar, I'm going to go over the basics of the ACS, including how the data are collected and the topics included, as well as the geographies that the ACS covers. And then I'll go into the heart of the webinar of talking about what supplemental estimates are, before I go into actually discussing the tools available to help you find and access the ACS supplemental estimates, and then followed by do a demonstration of these tools and how to access through our website, through data.census.gov, which is the Census Bureau's main data dissemination platform for accessing ACS estimates. I'll also cover some resources later that's available on our website for learning more about the survey. So jumping into the basics. The American Community Survey, or the ACS, is the premier source of detailed information about the nation's people and housing. The survey samples about 3.5 million addresses each year, and these data are collected continuously throughout the year to produce annual social, economic, housing, and demographic estimates for communities throughout the United States and Puerto Rico. The estimates cover more than 40 topics. I'll show a preview of those topics a little bit later. But the ACS collects this detailed information each year that was previously collected by the decennial census each decade every 10 years. And then information from the ACS generates data that help inform how trillions of dollars in federal funds are distributed each year, supporting more than 300 known federal uses and then countless non-federal uses. ACS data are timely because they're released the year immediately following the year in which they are collected. And this means that the ACS creates period estimates because they represent the characteristics of the population and housing over a specific data collection period. And the ACS releases estimates for 1 year and 5-year periods. These include the 1-year estimates, the 1-year supplemental estimates, which is the what we're going to be discussing today, and then the 5-year estimates. The ACS was fully implemented in 2005 after years of extensive testing, and the first ACS 1-year estimates were collected in 2005 and then released the year after in 2006. The first 5-year ACS estimates were collected between 2005 through 2009 and then were released in 2010. And the first 1-year supplemental estimates were the 2014 and 2015 ACS supplemental estimates that were released in 2016. And I'll highlight that a little bit later again. But just to keep in the mindset here is that the earliest ACS one-year supplemental estimates are going to be the 2014 ACS supplemental estimates. We don't have anything before that, so we're 2014 through the present. Let's talk about who uses the ACS data and why. So information from the ACS, like I mentioned, generates data that helps inform how federal funds are distributed each year. But there are also many other users of ACS data, such as local planners, policymakers, businesses, nonprofits, researchers, and more. So most people probably never think about how local planners, for example, use ACS data to know where to target new development or services, or even perhaps where businesses get data that they need to plan for expansion, as another example. So as a very specific example, the YMCA uses both their internal data along with ACS data to help local branches make sure that the resources and programming properly serve community members. So how do households participate in the ACS? So first, addresses are randomly selected to participate. The ACS collects data throughout the year using 3 response modes that operate in overlapping 3-month cycles. Households that receive the survey can respond online, by mail with a paper questionnaire, or by computer-assisted interviewing with a field representative. So typically, for most housing units, the first phase of the data collection process includes that invitation for the household to respond online, which is mailed to the sample address. So if the household does not respond online, then a paper questionnaire is then sent to that household for the household to complete and return by mail. This self-response phase lasts roughly 8 weeks. So for sample addresses or non-mailable addresses that the Census Bureau cannot contact, a subsample of these non-responses will be selected for computer-assisted interviewing. And this phase lasts about 4 weeks. So if the census receives an online response or a completed paper questionnaire from the sampled address at any point of the process, the address will be removed from the data collection workload. So each address has about 1 in 480 chance of being selected in a month. And no addresses should be selected more than once every 5 years. I also just let you know that respondents are also always able to call the Telephone Questionnaire Assistance Line, or TQA line, if they have questions about the survey or prefer to complete the survey over the phone. And each completed survey is important because it is the building block here used to create statistics about communities. So let's discuss some of these topics that the ACS provides estimates for. So the content collected by the ACS can be grouped into 4 main types of characteristics: social, economic, demographic, and housing. So social characteristics include topics such as education, language spoken at home, veteran status; economic characteristics like commuting to work, employment status, income; basic demographic characteristics, age, sex, race, Hispanic origin; housing characteristics as well, like computer and internet use, housing costs. And then also, there are new topics added in 2005, the electric vehicles, solar panels, and public sewer connectivity. Data for these new topics are planned to be released in 2026. These topics are used to produce more than 1,000 tables for local communities each year. And I wanted to pinpoint, you may not be able to see on the screen, the public sewer connectivity. That is grouped with the kitchen and plumbing facilities. Okay, jumping into the geographies that the ACS covers. So the ACS provides data from more geographies on an annual basis than any other household survey. And the image on this slide shows some of those geographies for which ACS data are produced and then the relationship between them. So looking at the lower geographic areas, they fit neatly within the larger areas directly connected with lines that you see there on the screen. So for example, when we're looking at the school, congressional, and state legislative districts, they fit neatly within states, and they don't cross state boundaries. However, they may cross the boundaries of counties or metropolitan areas. And in this visualization, when you look at the very bottom, you can see that the smallest geographic building block is called the block group. And point of reference is about 600 to 3,000 people in each block group. So the ACS has such a broad appeal because of its unique ability to repeat on a wide range of geographies. And earlier I mentioned the different products the ACS provides, being the 1-year estimates, the 1-year supplemental estimates, and the 5-year estimates. I have circled here what the focus of the webinar is today, the 1-year supplemental estimates, but I'd like to do a quick highlight over all three. So these data products are released, again, about 1 year after the data are collected. So the ACS 1-year data are typically released in September. ACS 1-year supplemental estimates are typically released in October, and then the ACS 5-year data typically released in December. So for example, the 1-year estimates and the 1-year supplemental estimates that were collected from, example, January 1st through December 31st of 2023, these were released in September 2024 and October 2024, respectively. ACS 1-year estimates, which combine data collected over 12 months, are available for geographic areas with populations of 65,000 or more. They are best used when currency is more important than precision, and also for analyzing large populations. ACS 1-year supplemental estimates are available for geographic areas with populations of 20,000 or more. 1-year supplemental estimates are simplified versions of popular ACS tables, and they provide the most current data to almost twice as many geographies compared to the standard 1-year release. And like the 1-year estimates, they are best used when currency is more important than precision, but also, unlike the 1-year standard release, these are good for analyzing smaller populations because the standard 1-year estimates have that population threshold of 65,000 or more, and so the data may not be available for a smaller population that is under 65,000, but still greater than 20,000 in population. And then for ACS 5-year estimates, these combine ACS data collected over 60 months or 5 years and are available for geographic areas of all sizes down to the granular census tracts and the smallest geography that we offer, which is the block group. And the 5-year estimates are best used when precision is more important than currency, but then also for analyzing very small populations at the census tract level, at the block group level, for example, and other small geographies that are not available in the 1-year estimates or the 1-year supplemental estimates. So before jumping into the specifics of supplemental estimates, I talked about the 1-year supplemental, and the 5-year estimate. So this visual gives a little bit of a nice representation at the county level as a county map about which releases are available for the different parts of the country. So with the dark blue areas, that shaded dark blue, they receive the 1-year supplemental, and then the 5-year estimates. And that's because these are counties with a population of 65,000 or more. And then the lighter blue counties receive only 1-year supplemental estimates and 5-year estimates, which, because these counties are have a population of 20,000 or more. And then those that are yellow in shade, these counties receive only 5-year estimates, and that's because the population of those counties are below 20,000. I thought this would be a nice representation to share and contrast between the different estimate types that we have available, and then throughout the United States as a visual component of what is available. So let's jump into the more of a deeper explanation of supplemental estimates now that I've covered background information into the ACS. So supplemental estimates are simplified tables providing the most current data at a lower population threshold. You're going to hear me say this a lot, but population threshold of 20,000 or more. And again, these are going to be providing more data, or excuse me, data from more geographies than the standard 1-year tables. So let me explain what I mean by simplified. But I will hold off on that till the next slide. I want to pinpoint a couple other pieces of information first. The ACS 1-year supplemental estimates were released in 2016 for the very first set. And that year, Census Bureau released 2014 and 2015 data collection years at that time. So 2014 is the very first supplemental estimate data set that we have to offer. And then to access the ACS 1-year supplemental estimates can be found on the ACS table webpage, and from this page you can access supplemental estimates for selected geographies at the national, state, county, place, or what we refer to as town or city, and metropolitan or micropolitan statistical areas. I'll highlight that on another slide. Actually, I'll do a live demo of that web page. And then also supplemental estimates can be found on data.census.gov for all geographic levels that are available under supplemental estimates, and that I also will do a live demo later. Also, you can access ACS 1-year supplemental estimates through the API, or Application Programming Interface. So earlier I mentioned that the 1-year supplemental estimate tables are simplified versions of popular ACS tables, but what does that look like? Why simplified? So let's compare a standard detailed table. We're going to use B as in Bravo 08301 from the 1-year release. And then also we're going to compare that with the supplemental estimates at K as in Kilo 200801. And these are means of transportation to work. So in the detailed table on the left, you'll see an estimate for each of these individual categories. And it's already highlighted with the orange box here. You see taxi cab, then motorcycle, bicycle, walked, other means, and you have data for each of those. This is very, very detailed. Well, switching over to the right side for the supplemental estimates, that's all rolled up into one. You have taxi, cab, motorcycle, bicycle, walked, or other means in one line, and then everything aggregated. So by doing this, the Census Bureau is able to provide 1-year estimates for many geographic areas that were previously only available through the 5-year data products. And it's also simplified by the number of tables. There are 63 tables for supplemental estimates compared to over 1,600 detailed tables for the standard ACS 1-year release. So let's go into the table profile, the numbering for supplemental estimates. We have a specific naming convention for all our tables to describe their content and format. So highlighting supplemental estimates, for this example, we're going to use the K as in Kilo 200801. And this is, like I highlighted on the last screen, the means of transportation to work. So the table IDs for supplemental estimates consist of 3 elements. Element 1 identifies the table type. So in this example, The type of table is supplemental estimates table, and that prefix is the K as in kilo 20. And then we have element 2, identifying the subject. And in this example, that is commuting, the journey to work. And then finally, we have our last element for supplemental tables. This is the sequential number. This is a set of 2 or 3 digits that uniquely identify the table within a given subject. And in this case, that is 0, 1. Another pointer I want to share that many data users find useful is our table list and table shelves page. The table list, shown on the left side of the screen here, allows you to search through a single spreadsheet with all the table IDs and table titles to find a table that's based on your interest. And this is more useful with the standard 1-year release where there are many more tables, but it is still nice to be able to quickly view what we offer for a particular release, including for the supplemental estimates releases. And if you see a table that interests you, now looking over on the right side of the screen, the table shelves, they provide the layout of tables without the estimates or the margins of error filled in. They just contain the line number, description of the data, and the table ID. And data users like these products because they are available before the data is actually released. So you can preview what's about to be released, and it also may be faster to search. So we talked about supplemental estimates. I'd love to jump in to a demonstration of where to find these supplemental estimates, and then also what to do when you're actually at these pages. So the first one, and I did mention these earlier, so this is the ACS web page, and I'm going to just jump over to the site now. So you have the links in the PDF version of the slide. You can just click on that and it'll hyperlink you to the page directly, but I'm just going to walk through. So I'm going to put in census.gov/ACS, which is our main web page. And when you are here, I enlarged my mouse over here, make it very obvious where I'm going to be clicking. And also, I'm looking away from the camera because I have the live demo on a separate screen. So I'm looking away from the camera. But if we click on data and then go to data tables, now we're going to have supplemental estimates right here. And so I can click on this and go explore. Before I do that, obviously today I'm just talking about the supplemental estimates, but this table, this page here talks about the other data tables, and this is a great place to go to quickly understand what each table type with the prefix are, and the geographies covered, and then hyperlinks to jump yourself over to these type of tables. So in this case, this is with data.census.gov or with the API, and you will find the supplemental estimates towards the bottom here, and I can jump over to data.census.gov to access these estimates. I can also jump over to Census API to access these estimates and get a little bit of a reminder of the geographic areas covered, and then what the supplemental estimates are. But I'm going to come up here. I want to click on this page. And now that I'm here, you saw a screenshot, but this is going to help you see the full list of the tables. I'm just going to keep scrolling. You have the full list of the supplemental estimates tables that are available. This web page currently is only showing the latest year, so that would be the 2023 ACS 1-year supplemental estimates. But when you're over at data.census.gov, you will be able to go to the previous years available. But what's nice here is if you don't necessarily know where to start, or you're just curious about the supplemental estimates that are available for your geographic area of interest, you can come here and search through the tables by putting in a filter. So I can put in age topic, and I see a bunch of different tables that's available for that. whether age is specified directly in this column or perhaps it is going to be within the table itself. I can also put in the actual ID. If you know the ID, I can put it in here and then it'll just pop up. But again, if I'm starting from the beginning and I want to define my geography, I can go to nation, state, county, place, or metropolitan or micropolitan statistical area. Reminder that place, for our intents and purposes, this really is referring to CDPs, census designated place, such as towns, villages, and then also cities. So I can click place. I can go define my state. I'm just going to go random here. So I'm clicking Arkansas and then North Little Rock City, Arkansas, and I have everything pop up here. So that is very handy. And when I click on a link, it will jump me over to data.census.gov. So for instance, I'm just hovering over and you can see at the bottom left the everything, what am I trying to say here? The link preview for you. So I see it's data.census.gov and I click on it and it actually takes me to data.census.gov and it has the full list of what I was seeing earlier. And then I can see the actual table and click other tables to go into these estimates for the geography that I defined. So great, okay, that's going through the ACS website, but what if you're just not sure? Are you going to use supplemental estimates? Maybe you would need the 1 year, maybe you need the 5 year, I don't know. And so what's that process looking like to decide between which one? Of course, it always depends on your data need and situation, but let me just pose a hypothetical here, just as an example. So let's just say that I am completing a grant application and I need to grab a variety of demographics and then commuting information for this geographic area. And I know that this geographic area is perhaps a smaller geography, but I don't know, will it be included in the 1 year? I'm not sure. So then let's just start from the beginning. I'm going to open up a new tab, and in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and close out those other tabs because we're going to start from the beginning and go to data.census.gov. That is the platform title, and it's also conveniently the URL. And so going into data.census.gov, Census Bureau's main data dissemination platform, I can either search through the search bar or I can click advanced search. Many different ways to do it, but again, I'm posing in the example of I don't know where to start, so I'm just going to go from the very beginning. So let's just say, and I randomly selected a geography earlier before this webinar, I selected Waterville City, Maine. So let's say, don't know where to start. I am just going to go ahead and type in Waterville City, Maine. I have my option pop up. I will click that. I see total population. I see, but that is from the 2020 decennial census. I'm wanting something a little bit more current than that. And so the American Community Survey estimates are going to be able to provide more current data because it is intercensus going every year, including between each decennial census. So I can click that table here, but also I can review the map. I can scroll down to see view all data sets to see the complete list of all the tables available, and then go that route. And again, I'm clicking on an American Community Survey table so I can get a 2023 estimate. But what I am noticing is, first of all, what is my data need? I'm looking for the basic demographic information and commuting information for this grant application for Waterville City, Maine. And I understand that the grant application is specifying I need a singular year or at least the most current data year. And so therefore, when I look at this here and I see that it is the 2023 ACS 5-year estimates, That's not going to work in this use case because the 2023 ACS 5-year means that these are the 2019 through 2023 estimates. And I need something that is a lot more current, that is just 2023. And if I click on here, can I go between, can I find 1 year that's available as well? I don't. I'm only seeing 5-year available. And then, okay, let's think through why is 1 year not popping up? So I look at the total population. Remember, we got to think of the thresholds. And when I look at this total population, I see, okay, 16,704. All right, so that is well below the 65,000 threshold for the 1 year standard release. We're not going to have, at least for 2023, we're not going to have the 1 year available. Now, populations can fluctuate year to year. It can, not always, but it can. And so even though this says 16,704, it is definitely below the 20,000 population threshold for supplemental estimates. But we're also looking at that this is the 5-year. So this is heavily influenced by each of the 5 years, the 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, within that 5-year data set. And I'm looking for just 2023. It's possible that because we are looking at 16,700 estimate, very close to 20,000, I might be able to have a data year that actually pops up over that 20,000 threshold. So let's just investigate. Is that available? Well, I'm going to look over here in my filters area over to the left. Now, I'm going to take a quick step back because sometimes when you are looking at data tables and clicking around, you may actually have this as your view and you don't see the filters. So what you can do is simply all the way over to the left, you see filters and then results. So if you click filters, it will pop up with the filters, and it also pops up the results to the right of the filters. So anyway, that's just how you can filter and put them away, and then bring them back. So I'm wanting something very current, 2023. Let me define 2023. I'm not interested in anything else. And then let me look at the survey. So I'm going to click American Community Survey. And beautiful, I see that there are 1 year supplemental estimates that's going to be available for 2023 within, let me scroll up, Waterville City, Maine. Now, of course, this is very important to have the geography already listed as a filter when you're doing this method. But once when you have the filter, it's going to block out what is not available for those filters. So since we have the filter defined of 2023 in Waterville City, Maine, I click on American Community Survey as a survey type, and I see 1 year supplemental estimates available. Beautiful. Looks like I'm going to be able to fill out this grant application with the data that they are requesting. I click on that. I'm going to close out here on the filters, but then I still have the basic filters, which is fine, but I'll just go ahead and close it. But I still want my results available so I can hop back and forth between my tables. So I see for the first one, the K table, the K20 table, K is in kilo, that is my supplemental estimate. And also confirmed by when I look at this data set, it is saying 2023 ACS 1 year supplemental estimate. I'm in the right place, and it makes sense because for 2023, I see that the estimate for the total population does go above that population threshold of 20,000 because we're looking at 20,284. So I need basic demographics, and so I already have the total population. I have data by male, female. Let's say I also need age data, and so I can look at under 18 in this particular table, but also, let me let it load, okay. To other age categories above 18 as well. In this table, I have the median age. And as you can see, just clicking through the different tables, seeing what is of interest for me. Now, when I open up my filters, again, and I'm looking at the filters I never did specify an actual topic. So I have 52, you can see here, I have 52 results for just general 2023 ACS one-year supplemental estimates for Waterville City, Maine, without a topic. So if that is, and that can be too many tables, maybe you need to do this very quickly. So we can actually go to topics over here on the left in the filters and define what we are needing. So for instance, populations and people, like I was talking about the age table. So if I click on age and sex option and then close that, I can see now I only have 9 results with these different tables that have any kind of mention of age crossed with another category, or excuse me, another topic, another variable. What did I say earlier? I needed basic demographics. Oh, commuting. Okay, yeah. So I defined the age and sex topic. Well, let me just take this out, and I can either define it, or I actually saw it right here. There we go. Means of transportation to work. That's commuting. So if I click on this table, then here we go. We actually saw this table earlier. I had a different geography set up for that in the screenshot on one of my slides, but you can see the taxi cab, motorcycle, bicycle, walk, or other means that is available as a means of transportation to work or commuting. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to provide some resources if you want a little bit more of a dive into supplemental estimates or where to go for next steps. But let me go ahead and jump over to the slides actually. And I did the live demo of the ACS webpage. I did the live demo of data.census.gov. So let me skip these and then provide the resources. So I talked a lot of the supplemental estimates, and I only did a very quick, brief overview of the basics of the ACS. If you want more information on the overview or like to have an introduction, we do have a recent introduction to the ACS webinar that's recorded. This is back from, as you can see on the slide, August 2024. But this will be a great recorded resource. You can find it at the link, at the top link on the bottom of the slide. And then the bottom link refers to the image you see on the right of the screen that is for the Discovering ACS course. This is a really cool, newer product that we have. The course is called Discovering the American Community Survey. It has 6 modules. It's a comprehensive course designed for all kinds of data users, not just those that need an introduction, but it is designed for all kinds of data users and just those that need to understand the fundamentals of the ACS and accessing the ACS. And so before I wrap up today's webinar, I'd like to invite you to stay in touch with us. One way is by telling us how you use data from the ACS or the American Community Survey. So have you yourself or perhaps your organization used the ACS to anything really, to make an important decision, help your community, expand your business? Well, if you have, please, we invite you to share that story with us to let us know how the data was utilized, and then also just helps to explore how data enthusiasts across the country are using ACS data in creative ways, because doing so provides further support of the importance for the data that we collect here at the Census Bureau and is a great way to further promote our data. If you go to the link that you see under that caption on the, or not caption, under that image on the very left, so that link will take you to where you can submit the story, but also to see other stories that were submitted to us and that we highlight on our website. Very cool uses for the ACS. I encourage you to check them out. A lot of inspiration on unique ways to use the ACS for very cool products. Well, then also looking at the middle image now, consider joining a group that we have specifically for users of ACS data, known simply as the ACS Data Users Group. And this group includes a website and an online community with over 6,000 members where you can share messages, materials, and announcements related to the survey itself. Membership is free. It's free, and it's open to all interested ACS data users. And finally, looking at the image on the right and the link on the right, you can sign up for and manage email updates from the ACS. Our monthly events and updates email will alert you when new materials are available, including the recording of this presentation, and you'll stay updated on our data releases. So in closing, I want to share information on how to find answers and then get support after this webinar. If you've had questions, I hope you've been able to submit them through the Q&A feature. But if you have questions later, or if those questions were not able to be answered during the webinar, then you can either visit our website, census.gov/ACS, to see all of the different resources we have available, but also you can reach us with your questions by phone or email, what you see here on the screen. Email at acso.users.support@census.gov, or by phone using the phone number 800-923-8282. But also, if you're looking for further assistance on how to obtain or understand ACS data, you can access upcoming or recorded webinars. We also have data gems and online courses, like I mentioned, for the ACS one. All of that can be found on the Census Academy page, census.gov/academy. And one last thing, if you're using ACS estimates, make sure to source the Census Bureau American Community Survey as to where you received the data. Of course, it just helps people know that the information they're using is powered by the ACS. Well, this concludes today's webinar. I hope you found it productive and were able to learn more about supplemental estimates. I thank you for your time and for attending today's webinar. And I pass it over to our facilitator to close things out. Thank you very much.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.